For today, it's emerged that staff at the Old Vic Theatre in London have had their say and decided they don't much like the views of the director of a musical, Terry Gilliam, no less, he of Monty Python fame.
Loudoun County parent Scott Smith says his daughter was sexually assaulted in the girls' bathroom at Stonebridge High School by a boy wearing a skirt.
The power of Christ compels you! The power of Christ compels you!
Walmart has launched a critical race theory training program that labels the U.S. as a white supremacy system and accuses white employees of internalized racial superiority.
Welcome to the New Flesh podcast. My name is Jonathan Astro. With me is Ricky Allpike. And Ricky, this is our 50th show.
It is. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. It is happy birthday. It is. 50 shows.
50, yeah. Who thought we'd get to 50?
Can I be honest with you? Do you know the first episode? When we started recording the first episode, I actually just thought we were testing the mics.
Right.
And then the episode we were recording. Do you remember that?
I have only very distant memories of the first episode.
Right. Well, no, because we were like, oh, let's test the mics. And then suddenly I just, like, one of us just said, welcome to the New Flesh podcast. And then we just didn't shut up.
Really? Is that how it started?
Honestly, like, because we got the equipment, we were going to record a show, you know, in the coming days or whatever.
Yeah.
And we'd called up. It was honestly just to test the mics, or maybe there was a miscommunication.
Right.
But I certainly thought we were just testing the mics, and then suddenly 2 hours later there was a show. I mean, has anyone listened to it? I don't know. But
not sure. A few people have actually.
A couple of people. But yeah. So how do you? What's your thoughts on 50 shows?
Well, it's gone by in a flash, hasn't it? It's like it's an interesting gig. You've got to keep on rolling. You know, the next week comes around, and you've just got to make it happen. And you do your reading, you do your research, you know,
into demons,
yeah, or
this week's show, Cyber Cinema,
yep, or some other strange, you know, the lair of the white worm, you know, trans issues, transplaining.
Yes, I do have to. I find myself having to keep myself in check a bit because, you know, we speak fairly openly on this podcast, but, you know, someone comes over to your house and they're talking to your wife or whatever, and then you get involved in the conversation, and then you realize that you're not on the podcast when you start talking to them.
Yeah, that's
and you
right.
say something, and you go, "Oh yeah, they either don't care about this stuff, or they're deeply offended by you know, like they'll say stuff like, you know, like, oh, you think that's, you know, woke, do you, or whatever?" And I'm just like, yeah, I do. I do. Anyway, yeah. We got a massive show today, so we better get into it. We're going to talk about exorcisms. We've got AT&T doing the dirty on its employees. We've got Loudoun County update, and we've got the great Terry Gilliam joining us later in spirit.
Yeah, it's a bumper episode 50. And we're going to kick it off with some COVID exorcisms.
Okay.
Now, I came across this article from the Daily Beast titled Vatican to Exorcists, Please Don't Try to Cast COVID Out of People. Now, as you know, John, I'm a sucker for stories about cults and other religious weirdness. So I did a little bit of research, and the COVID pandemic has seen a rise in people reaching out to exorcists in an attempt to cast out COVID from people who were sick with the virus. And at the 15th Annual Exorcism Conference held in Rome this week, I bet you didn't know that existed.
They have an exorcism conference?
They have an exorcism conference, I believe, well, this is the 15th one, so it's been running for 15 years now. And practitioners were told under no circumstance should they perform the rite on a COVID patient. But, of course, that hasn't stopped Father Ronaldo Ablong of the Philippines, though. Father Ronaldo sent exorcists into the parish with holy water to perform exorcisms on COVID patients as the virus spread through communities. Mm-hmm. Now, he has, however, drawn scorn from some in Rome for crossing the boundaries between physical health and true demonic possessions, as defined, of course, by the Catholic Church. So this year's Exorcism Conference, which is officially called the Course on Exorcism and Prayer of Liberation, is especially focused on angels and demons in sacred scripture, as well as seminars on the Asian world and Afro-Brazilian magic rites, which apparently are not in line with Catholic teaching.
No?
No, I believe it's not quite in line with that. So they got to talk about it at this year's conference. And believe it or not, the conference will set you back €300 to attend.
Wow.
Which is pretty steep. Like, what is that in Australian dollars? Like 600 plus, maybe? That's it's not pocket change right there.
No.
But this is really interesting. For the first time ever, it's not only Vatican approved and trained exorcists who are allowed to attend. So the conference has also been opened up to lay people like you and I, but especially devout Catholics working in mental health, who are often called in to help discern whether someone has a psychiatric problem or is indeed a devil's spawn.
Okay. Yep.
So,
what would that conference be like, though? That sounds like a hilarious event.
I think it would be very entertaining.
Is it at a hotel? Do you think?
I don't know. I think it'll be in a Vatican building somewhere.
Oh, okay. Well, I wanted it to be just like one of those out of town conventions. Like you go there.
Yeah. Some shitty hotel.
Yeah, like a motor in somewhere.
Yeah.
And then the priests all get together, and then they're all sort of judging each other, and they're like, oh, geez, things were so much better when they didn't let in the layman.
That's right.
Like,
yeah.
oh, look at that guy over there. He believes some really crazy stuff. Anyway,
Anyway,
you know what I mean? Like judging
yeah.
each other.
Yeah. Well, this character, Father Michel de Catal, a French priest, anthropologist, linguist, and historian, says that instead of assuming COVID is the devil's work, he believes that people who have lost loved ones, livelihoods, and were isolated have opened themselves up to devil possession. Essentially making it easier for possession to occur. He's also said that the issue becomes more acute with social crises and acts a sort of symptomatic expression of unease and has no other way to express itself but through possession. Now, obviously, all of this is a little bit controversial. Exorcism remains controversial due to its depiction in pop culture and horror films. Of course, the famous film from the 70s, The Exorcist, which is a classic horror film. But there's also been some cases of abuse linked to exorcisms in a range of religious sects. And one well-known case was of a 25-year-old woman from Nicaragua who was said to be suffering from hallucinations, and she ended up dying after receiving a several days long exorcism, which involved starvation and later severe burning. So there is a very dark edge to exorcisms. Those sorts of things tend to happen in very poor third world countries, and this particular case was literally in a village that you couldn't get to by road, and it's like a 10-hour walk to get to the nearest town.
And the padre was like 23.
He was very young.
So, and he was a little bit more literate than everyone else.
Just a little bit, yeah. That's why he got the top gig, is he could actually read some of that Bible. So very grim, yeah. But believe it or not, 500,000 people seek exorcisms every year in Italy. And there's a report out by the Christian think tank Theos. And in 2017, they said that the practice was also on the rise in the UK, in part due to the spread of Pentecostal churches. And some dioceses have developed their own courses to meet the growing demand, including in Sicily and, believe it or not, in the US city of Chicago. So there's a bit of a booming exorcism scene happening in Chicago. So if you're a budding exorcist and you want to get in there, you want to cause a ruckus, perhaps think about going to Chicago.
Okay, so be nimble. Go to Chicago.
That's right. In terms of the procedure, though, like in the Catholic Church, a major exorcism can only be carried out by a priest with a bishop's approval. And it involves specific prayers and an invocation of the demon to leave the body of the possessed in Jesus' name. And it does, everything I've read about the actual procedure does sound a lot like the film The Exorcist, without the green slime and all that sort of stuff. But
Sure.
in terms of what the priests actually do, it's pretty accurate.
That's why the book and the film are brilliant. It's because it's beautifully researched.
Yes, yeah.
By William Peter Blatty and William Friedkin.
Yeah. In 1999, the Catholic Church carried out its first major update to the rules surrounding exorcism. It's the first major update since 1614.
Oh yeah, it's time for a spruce up.
I think it was time for a spruce up. And the main thing they did was to distinguish between demonic possession and physical or psychological illness, which I think was a key thing. That, I don't know, maybe that should have happened maybe in 1714.
He didn't need to wait for that many
He didn't have to
years.
wait that long.
They could have said, hey, wait a minute. You know, I'm just putting this out there, but I think this person just might be a mentalist.
That's right.
And the other priest goes, yeah, you're right.
That's right.
Which I'd known 100 years ago.
Yeah. In a modern context, though, priests now work with a team of doctors, psychologists and psychiatrists, usually all practicing Catholics, to rule out any other cause for a person suffering before diagnosing demonic possession. And the priest will then try a series of deliverance prayers. Major exorcism will only take place as a last resort. Now, the objections to all this are twofold. The risk of abuse like that of the Nicaraguan lady is obvious, but it's also rare. More likely, there's a risk that people with illness such as epilepsy or schizophrenia could be misdiagnosed and miss out on medical treatment. And my take on all of this really is, if exorcisms are taking part as part of a broad cross-disciplinary treatment plan, which seems to be the way exorcisms are going in 2021, like collaborating with psychiatrists and doctors and what have you, how are exorcists any different to, say, chiropractors or wellness gurus? You know,
Quacks.
If it makes you feel better to have holy water dripped on your forehead and passages of the Bible recited in mantra, then, you know, what's the big deal? I mean, I know leftist atheists, you know, the type that scoff at your mate, the New South Wales Premier, for having 7 kids. They'd be horrified at what I'm saying, but they also believe that biological men can literally become women. So there are crazy beliefs on both sides, don't you think?
So in the words of Trump, there were fine people on both sides. That's what you're saying. I'm just trying to get what you're saying right. Look, I'm obviously I'm obviously sympathetic, because, you know, this is one of those things. Like, I have no problem with spirituality whatsoever. Like, you know, and I don't obviously, religion, as has been stated many times, has a lot of bloodshed and a lot of negatives, but, you know, I do believe in the positives of spirituality or religions, and that includes Islam and, yeah, obviously Catholicism and Buddhism and everything. Like, I think that there's you know, what we get from spirituality, we get community, we get a organizing principle, and most of the religions are trying their best, you know, even if they've got some scriptures with some mad stuff in them, they are trying their best to minimize that stuff and to, you know, and to pump up the good stuff. I mean, how, you know, not to go too far down the rabbit hole, but if some of these if some selfish narcissists out there followed some of the advice from the Sermon on the Mount, they'd be a lot happier.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
And what you say is correct. I think in that, you know, if we've ruled out everything else, like it's not COVID, it's not, you know, something that we know is some kind of, you know, identifiable psychological issue or you know, chemical imbalance or whatever. If all that remains is, you know, could be related to the person's belief system, then yeah, I mean, well, I'm no expert on this, but, you know, I don't see what the problem is. I mean, I would put it in the same category in this instance as, you know, acupuncture or, you know, anything else that, you know, that your doctor might, you know, they might just say, yeah, look, it can't hurt, as long as if it's not hurting you. Like the Nicaraguan woman was burned and whatever, which is horrible. But if we're just literally throwing a bit of holy water on you. Yeah. Having said that, I think it can, these exorcists, the person's belief sounds pretty strong generally, and, you know, it seems like a very intense process.
Yeah. It's not just a wellness spa or something of a Sunday afternoon.
Trip up to Dalesford.
You know? Yeah, the hot springs.
Like, you probably might be so worked up you swallow your tongue, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, in that way, it's a bit more like a sauna then. It's a bit of an ordeal, but once you get out of it, you feel really good.
yeah. Do I lose any weight or?
I don't know. Well,
Exorcism or?
if they starve you, then I guess you
so it's
would.
like a fasting routine. sort of.
Yeah. So you got the sauna, you've got the fire that warms you up, like the sauna, and then you have the starving that helps you lose weight, and then it's like a full cleanse, full body cleanse,
Full body cleanse and your soul as well.
and your soul, body and soul.
Yes. Well, it's, and the one thing you said in there was interesting as well. It's like, we don't need, COVID isn't, created by the devil. It was created by the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
Funded by Dr. Fauci.
Funded by Dr. Fauci. And it was, then proliferated throughout the world and lied about by the Chinese Communist Party, and and then covered up by large sections of the media for some reason. Like, you know what I mean? Like how everyone went around saying, "Oh, people are saying that this got out of a lab."
Yeah, that's racist talk. You can't say that.
Yeah, I know. It is racist. It is racist.
And you can't call it the Indian variant anymore. It's the Delta variant.
Right.
So
there are some people who are pretty committed to labeling it, though. Like, all the Daily Wire and that, they say like the Chinese coronavirus.
They're making a special point of it.
The Kung flu and all of that. They're really trying to.
Well, have some fun with it. Why not? I mean, it's taken over our fucking lives.
That's true. We should be having more fun with it.
But historically, all these sorts of viruses and stuff, they get named from where they come from. Like Lyme disease came from a town called Lyme in America somewhere, and dengue fever came from the Dengue River. I mean, I don't see what the big
Lou
deal
Gehrig's
is.
disease came from Lou Gehrig.
Yeah, that's right.
So I get the point.
Yeah. So anyway, that is COVID and exorcisms.
That's good. That was good. That was like that got me excited because it was a bit, a bit spiritual, a bit, a bit more philosophical.
Bit taboo as well.
Yeah, and you know what we didn't talk about? Lady dicks.
That's right. Yeah.
And that was nice. It's nice to have just 5 fucking minutes where we're not like talking about transgenderism.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. Maybe we should have a new segment like spirituality corner or something.
So long. Welcome to Spirituality Corner. And you go, can we come up with something pithy?
No, it's that now. We've said it. It's got to be that.
It's got to be that. Okay. All right.
If you enjoy what we do here on the New Flesh podcast, there are a number of ways you can contribute to the success of the show. Consider supporting us financially by becoming a Patreon member and donating monthly or yearly. Alternatively, you can donate money through the Buy Me a Coffee platform. If you're strapped for cash at this point in time, there are a number of other ways to support the New Flesh. You can give us a rating or review through Apple Podcasts. These help others to find our show and help spread the word. Or you can tell your friends about us. Don't underestimate the power of a podcast recommendation. And now, back to the show.
Well, I am going to pivot to something more annoying, unfortunately for you. So it turns out in America, AT&T, a big company, has decided to re-educate its employees en masse. So just read you out a quick little excerpt from Christopher Rufo's article in City Journal. It says, "White people, you are the problem. AT&T's new racial re-education program promotes the idea that, quote, racism is a uniquely white trait," close quote. Here we go. AT&T Corporation has created a racial re-education program that promotes the idea that, quote, American racism is a uniquely white trait, close quote, and boosts left-wing causes such as, quote, reparations, close quote, defund the police, and trans activism. I have obtained a cache of internal documents about the company's initiative called Listen, Understand, Act, which is based on the core principles of critical race theory, including intersectionality, systemic racism, white privilege, and white fragility. CEO John Stankey launched the program last year and subsequently has told employees that private corporations such as AT&T have a, quote, obligation to engage on this issue of racial injustice, close quote, and push for, quote, systemic reforms in police departments across the country. Close quote. According to a senior employee who agreed to speak on condition of anonymity, managers at AT&T are now assessed annually on diversity issues with mandatory participation in programs such as discussion groups, book clubs, mentorship programs, and race re-education exercises. White employees, the source said, are tacitly expected to confess their complicity in white privilege and systemic racism, or they'll be penalized in their performance reviews. So you also have to engage in this sort of 25-day sort of training habit.
Yeah, is that the checklist thing that I saw? The tracking chart, they call it?
Yes. So there's a group, like a diversity consulting group that's created this habits 21-day challenge.
Yeah, it's fucking nightmarish.
Yeah, so it's split up into sections, right? They've got like books, visual aids, and actions and all sorts of stuff. The materials are exhaustive. I actually went and had a look at the document. You can talk about that little habits thing in a second, but basically, some of the books they recommend you read: White Fragility by Robert DiAngelo, Just Mercy, A Story of Justice and Redemption, White Awake, An Honest Look at What It Means to Be White by Daniel Hill, Stamped from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi, Between the World and Me, Ta-Nehisi Coates, Killing Rage, Ending Racism by Bell Hooks, Tears We Cannot Stop by Michael Eric Dyson. Podcasts, they cite the 1619 Project by the New York Times. So in the watch section, this is interesting. They've actually split this up for you. So there's a lot. There's like a shitload of stuff for you to watch, okay? So, Ricky, now they've actually broken it up with how much time you've got. So short, okay? It says coffee break link. So you're working at AT&T, picture it, and just you're in a coffee break. So you can watch some stuff. Or if, the next up is lunch break length. So you can take your whole lunch break to watch one of these things, like a TED Talk or whatever. And then long, sit on, when you're with your partner, on the couch, it says sit on the couch length, long. So systemic racism explained, defund the police, how white fragility enforces racism, racism is real, New York Times, op docs on race. What kind of Asian are you? I've lived as a man, as a woman. Here's what I learned. What being Hispanic and Latinx means in the United States, and the urgency of intersectionality. So lots of stuff there. But as I said, you can actually pick what you want and just watch it, just slot it into your day. Okay?
Yeah.
And then read those books as well. Listen to those podcasts.
It's not just a job, is it? It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're not a bigot, then it's just a bit of fun. You know what I mean? Like, it's your life and it's just a lifestyle. But if you're a bigot and you don't like black people and
or
Asian
R&B
people,
music,
R&B music. If you got a problem, if you're a racist, you don't like all this stuff, is what I'm saying. Okay, so you make the choice.
Yeah, I love how they have a list of songs as well. I think they have their own playlist on Spotify,
right,
where you can listen to Nina Simone and you can listen to Ella Fitzgerald, and it's just the most basic selection of black artists through American pop culture. It's basic low hanging fruit.
Yeah, but then there's a couple of either podcasts or there was a couple of tracks or whatever featuring Jay-Z, and there was one program or whatever featuring Dr. Dre, and you're just like, I like the music of those guys, but don't you see their message as being a little difficult to fit in with the rest of your message here? Do you know what I mean? I'm talking about what arguably could be the misogyny in Dr. Dre's lyrics, or the fact that he was done for assault. Yeah. I mean, there's murder and mayhem. There's prostitution. There's all sorts of stuff that's kind of.
But that gets completely overlooked. I mean, George Floyd, he died tragically and it shouldn't have happened, but that guy was a career criminal, and now there's a fucking statue to him out there.
Well, yeah. I mean, that speaks for itself. I mean, it's so funny. You did say the name, and you just go, "Oh shit!
Oh shit! Yeah,
oh,
I know.
Shit!
Oh, no!
Like,
yeah.
it is total kryptonite, isn't it? Like, you just can't say the obvious thing. I mean, I think maybe the mistake people made was it's too early. Like, we're going to have to later on say, look, It was it was tragic, and you know what? I think the law has decided that it was a murder, and that guy's been put away. Justice was done. So, but you have to look at it and say, yeah, this guy was a veteran criminal.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, is what it is. But back to these materials, did you think that there was a little bit much?
Oh, so much. So much you've got to wade through. I don't know much about AT&T, but I know about some of the telecommunications companies here in Australia, and I can bet that maybe 90% of the people that work there fucking hate working there because it's just a shit job, and they're doing it just to pay their rent. And, they're just average people. They're just in the grind, trying to make ends meet, trying to, I don't know, save for a house or do those sorts of things. And on top of that, they've got to do all this other fucking bullshit, that's just such a waste of time. Where do these guys get off? As long as you're doing your job and you're not harassing anyone, that's what HR departments and complaints procedures, that's what they're there for if someone is bullying you or harassing you. But outside of that, if you're just getting on with your work, you're trying your best to fit in with your colleagues and you're just doing the work, why do you have to do all this other stuff? And the checklist, the tracking chart at the end is just so condescending. It's it's got this example of this checklist that you might have, and it's follow some ethnically diverse Facebook pages.
Oh,
and,
yes.
Yes. You've got to check that off, and then
there's
it's
so many of them too.
Oh my God! And then it's host a discussion with a friend of yours, or think about ways that you can interject when someone is telling a racist joke, stuff like that. It's oh my God, it's too much.
You've outlined all the points that really struck me. I'm not sure who in the company is required to engage with this. They've got 230,000 employees. I'm not quite. My research has suggested that it's everyone that it has to be engaging with this stuff. This is a serious time investment, and perhaps, as you say, not really relevant to working in telecommunications, and it's an entertainment company as well. We'll get into that in a sec.
Right.
This is also a bit personal. Do you know what I mean? Isn't some of this a bit personal? We're talking about identity and stuff. Isn't it? Yeah. When we're talking about discrimination, obviously that's related to policies and procedures and the law. But if we're not talking about discrimination, actionable discrimination and outward discrimination, then isn't it kind of none of your business?
Yeah. It's stepping over into policing thoughts and policing people's interests and habits, and heaven forbid that you'd be into classical music and you might have a Spotify playlist of, I don't know, Mozart or something.
Oh, yes. Bigotry, yes.
That would be beyond the pale. No. You've got to listen to African American urban music.
Only Nina Simone. But yeah, as you say, this is the big one. I'm not sure when you meant to squeeze this extra work in, and it is extra work. I don't think it's. You notice how it didn't say you can do this on work time. They said in your lunch break.
That's right. Yeah.
In your coffee break, at home, on the couch. So these people are busy, especially in America. Pay is low. Holidays, person-to-person wealth isn't as high as it is in Australia, and I know that's not something people want to hear, but that's true. Holidays are few. And I know that because when I've been to America and told them that I'm on holiday and stuff, their minds are blown.
Yeah. Especially when you say, "Oh, you're on holiday for 5 weeks."
Yeah, and then you just go, "Yeah, it's no big deal. Just went on a bit of a holiday." There's no healthcare benefits, which is the big one. And I know now, don't get triggered if you're American. And I for some reason, that's something you all need to get on healthcare benefits. There's nothing wrong with giving everyone's healthcare benefits. And for some reason, it's tied up with employment in America.
Yeah.
That's terrible. It's a bad system. It's the worst system I've ever heard. So, yeah, I think it's a problem. But let me give you some background on AT&T, and then we'll talk about the CEO. So AT&T, it's a publicly listed company. They do telecommunications, technology, mass media, and entertainment. So here's the big one. Ranked 11 on the Fortune 500. So the Fortune 500 is an annual list of compiled and published by Fortune magazine, 500 largest US corporations by total revenue for their respective fiscal years. So this is number 11 out of 500 companies. So this is almost in the top 10. This is fucking huge. Okay, so their net income, this is after all the goodies have been taken out, 5.18 billion. Okay, total assets 525 billion. Total equity 179 billion. I didn't even look into what the CEO gets paid, but I guarantee you it's a shitload. Okay, 230,000 employees. Now they've solved their problem here by doing what you do when you're in a big corporation. You hire a diversity and education consulting firm, America and More, to come up with a 21-day racial equity habit building system. That's all that stuff we read out. Now, the most fascinating thing in the packet that Christopher Rufo was sent was this message from the CEO by John Stankey. Now, did you have a read of this?
I did, yeah.
Absolutely fascinating. So let's run through a few of these things. Basically, this is a 5-page email sent to everyone in AT&T. It says to all US AT&T employees. So whether you're in the mailroom or whether you're an intern or whether you're the VP, you are getting this email. It was huge. Now, I thought this was absolutely fascinating. First, so a couple of little quotes here. He says, our team is as diverse as they come, demographically, geographically, and in views on social and political issues, which is true. The outside environment in which we're doing this is as stressed and polarized as ever. Name calling, disrespect, distrust, online flaming, and dismissal of other viewpoints has unfortunately become the daily norm in society. Nearly every issue is seen by some through a divisive partisan political lens. You know what? That's true. I read that and I went, I agree with that. I mean, he's actually he said something here which generally goes ignored by some people on the hard left, is when he said, and polarized and in views on social and political issues. That's normally seen as a signal, that you aren't all in on BLM, or you aren't all in on this hard left stuff. Because what you're saying is, your uncle, who is just like a quiet, normal guy with a normal job who happens to vote Republican, and doesn't like Donald Trump's tweets but votes Republican, he's not the absolute devil.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So this was interesting, okay?
Yeah, but I feel like some of these comments go contrary to the training, though, because the training is very political.
Yes,
and the train. I mean, you probably got a lot to say about this, but the training is also it's not inclusive of different viewpoints, which is what he's kind of talking about here.
You hit it. No, you've hit on it. I've got 3 examples here where exactly that was the main thing I got from his email, is that it seems to be in opposition with the firm he's chosen to come up with this plan and the materials themselves. Because when you dig into the material and look at it, it's totally doesn't wash with what he said here. So here's the first example. So he says, a respected leader of a national advocacy organization said to me the other day, quote, "You may not have been looking for the role, but with the center gone in American politics, people are looking to your company to be a voice of reason." So in other words, we've got to weigh in on these things. What got me here was to be a voice of reason. The provided materials do not support being a voice of reason. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you can't provide the 1619 Project with no, which was written by a journalist, you know what I mean, for a newspaper.
Yeah.
And not provide any counterbalancing peer-reviewed history professors and their work on that thing and say that you're being the voice of reason. You can't provide only Ibram X. Kendi and not Thomas Sowell or Glenn Lowry or John McWhorter and say that you're being the voice of reason. You're being one-eyed. Like Michael Eric Dyson and whoever on this list. Like, if you look at, if you want to talk about African American thinkers or Black thinkers, this is totally one-eyed. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah.
So a couple of other damning quotes here. I want to share with you why we've spoken out on some of these critical issues that shape our society, blah, blah, blah. But before I do, I want to remind you of our expectations for our work environment, AT&T. When we come to work, we should leave society's vitriolic divisions outside our walls. At all times, we should be respectful and seek to listen to and understand our fellow employees' points of view, especially when they are different from our own. That's a good policy, you know what? And again, it's not backed up by the radical and partial training materials, partisan work.
Yeah, yeah. Well, some of the things in that tracking chart is almost evangelical, where you've got to talk to people and lead discussions, and get people host movie nights where you play these sorts of things.
Jesus Christ, how awkward would that be?
Oh, that'd be the worst.
You know what I mean? Like, I just don't know what you do. You say like, oh, and tonight, everyone, we're watching Moonlight, and it's you, and you've got all of your co-workers all in there, and you're showing them this movie about what it means to be black and gay in America, and you're all watching it together. And you know what I mean? It's downright creepy. So then they go into this stuff about the police, like all this stuff about what they're doing to advocate for systemic reforms in police departments. What the fuck has AT&T got to do with the police?
That's exactly what I thought. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Like, talk about being outside your portfolio. He tries his best, because this guy sounds like a smart guy. It's probably Ivy League. He's done his best to make the connection, but you read it and you just go, look, dude, like, what are you talking? Like, this is the most 2020 email of all time. Like 2020, it's all about who done broke their brain in 2020. Like, this is just perfectly, in 10 years, someone's going to read this and say, what the fuck is this guy talking about? And you go, oh, well, in 2020, like, there was this, everyone was locked in their house and everyone went crazy. And because of this one murder that happened in America, despite, 60 people being blown up in Pakistan that day, the whole world stopped and paid attention to something that was happening in America. And then, we all shut up and listened. And basically all these CEOs, in order to hide their massive pay packets and all the other things that they feel guilty about, their privilege and whatever, well, they wrote these big dumb emails and got all of their poorest workers who are already diverse and intermarried and whatever to do these terrible training courses. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was bonkers. And lastly, I'll skip to this last bit. Here we go. So after the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol, we applauded all those who stood strong and to thwart this appalling effort to block the peaceful transfer of power following a free and fair election. So, free and fair election, which is fair enough. But, last time I checked, the Democrats and Hillary Clinton spent 4 years saying that the election was stolen.
I know.
And, that Russiagate stuff, which has now been proven to be bunkum. Yeah. You know what I mean? Is a bit laughable. But he's called it the insurrection there, hasn't said, which is, he's saying what he said. But this one, as I said at the time, freedom, democracy, and the rule of law are America's bedrock and must never be usurped. You know what, Mr. Stanky? You are absolutely right. Rioting and looting and murder and assault are fucking terrible. Oh, wait a minute. Are we seeing a little parallel here? So he's just said that, that the January 6th insurrection, as he says, that the rule of law is bedrock and must never be usurped. Well, I think he should pop down to Portland and pop up to Seattle, where he's probably got some branches, I'm sure, and a lot of employees dotted around. Maybe he should go to the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone and check it out and say, hey, as I said in my email, I'm pretty sure there was like 5 or 6 people murdered in Chaz and Chop.
Yes, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's way more than that poor idiot who got shot and killed in the January 6th riot.
Yeah, yeah. And you would have seen footage of looters just literally walking in to a Walmart or a Kmart somewhere and just walking out with stuff, like walking past security guards, like casual as you like, just armfuls of merchandise,
Look, I mean, it's terrifying because you just go, look, you understand that obviously there's a lot of people doing it tough. I get that. But, if this system's going to work, we can't have people just walking in and taking stuff off the shelves. It's not going to work that way. And at the end of the day, I mean, and AT&T finishes off here by talking about their packs that they do, these contributions they give to both Democrats and Republicans. We don't agree with every stance taken by candidates. So basically, he's just said, that they give money out, based on things that they're trying to advocate for to do with their business, right?
Yep.
And I read that and I was just like, no shit. You know what I mean? You know what he's saying? He's saying Republicans buy shoes too.
Yeah.
And which is it's perfectly normal. They're a Fortune 500 company. They are not a charity. They give money to people who benefit their business. Do you know what I mean? And he's mentioned the word centrist here, and he's talked about reason, centrism, the center, the middle. That is, I can't believe this letter wasn't sort of maybe scrutinized, and he wasn't roasted by the progressives in America.
How have they taken his letter?
Well, I'm going to have to look into it because I certainly never heard of it. Like when I read this, I was like, how come? And I've read some of the other stuff that came out last year. This seemed to have gone past my radar, and I was following this quite closely. But there's a lot in this letter that I completely agree with. Yeah. He's talking about reason. He's talking about the center. He's talking about being respectful at work. Kind of sort of suggesting that you don't bring your politics to work.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
I think the problem is that he didn't send it as a tweet. It's too long. It's long form. It's well thought out.
You're right. And people would have gone post too long, didn't read. And I just feel like, as we've said, it's completely out of step with the firm he's chosen to solve his problem. Because the only way you can solve a problem in America, if you want to woke wash your business, especially if you're in that fucking top 10, whatever, you need to just go big. You need to go, okay, let's just give this equity company or whatever, this diversity and education consulting firm, just give them serious bank, a lot of money. They're not a charity, but they're not a fucking charity. Let's be real about that.
Yeah.
They're not a charity. So let's give them a lot of money, and then they can come in and then just solve this problem for us. Like, and then you go, wait a minute. Look, I know what you're saying. It's just that, have you looked at these materials that like white fragility and, you know what I mean? Like all these books that you've got here and all these movies, like there's a lot of radical contested stuff in here.
Yeah.
That like, this is completely out of step with your message. Like you should be, pushing, and I'm not suggesting that they tell people to fucking check out Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson or whatever.
Ruben.
And Ruben, like I'm just saying that, that there's contested and radical stuff on here, and it's out of step with the centrist message that he's pushing, which he needs to just stand by that initial email and say, look, we were going to get this firm involved, but we're not going to because, we believe in the center. We think that you're busy hard workers. We believe in you, apart, one bad thing happens every now and then. Generally speaking, you're all trying your best. Maybe rather than spend the money on, this firm, what we decided to do is to bump up your pay a little bit, all of you. Yeah. We're going to bump up your pay because we're actually, a business. We're not a charity, and we understand that you live tough lives. And maybe part of the reason that, all this shit's happening, this inequality, is because, some of you don't have the proper healthcare, or some of you don't have enough money to put, food on the table and get good education for your family. Maybe that's what we should be investing in.
Surely he's aware of what that company does and what their materials are. I mean, he hasn't just handballed it to someone lower down the scale and said, "Oh, we need to do something for the optics, just get someone in."
Well, I'm not certain. Like, he is part of this group of people that is, famously rich. And when you're that rich, you are largely untouched by, all of this is quite fun. Like reading White Fragility or listening to it on an audio or book when you're in business class on your way to Palo Alto or something is a joy, because you are untouched by any of her suggestions. You don't have to do anything that, is suggested in these radical works. Let's put it this way. He didn't do the 21-day challenge. He didn't do that. He didn't have the movie night,
Yeah.
He didn't do that. He didn't do, ask all these questions, these creepy questions, which we're in a big block here. Where is it? Here we go. So As you move through the day, what's the racial composition of the people around you on your commute, at the coffee shop you go to, at the gym, at your workplace? The show you go to on the weekend, what's the percentage of the day you're able to be with people of your own racial identity? Imagine the CEO, John Stankey, asking himself these questions. Notice how much of your day you're speaking about racism. Who are you engaging with on these issues? Who are you not? Who do you think this is? What are the
who thinks like this? Who the fuck thinks like this?
Lunatics.
You are to see race everywhere you go must be absolutely maddening for your brain.
It's a nightmare. It's a fucking nightmare. And it's weird.
Yeah.
Like, it's fucking weird. Like, how can you think like this? If you think like this, you have zero chill.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you are just a anxious, crazy lunatic. And the people you're trying to reach, there are racists out there. There are absolutely racists. But I don't think out of the 230,000 people, like, that there are massive amounts of, like, hard-bitten racists. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't think that the people that you're trying to... This is a radical... Now, because I've been passionate and obsessive about a lot of things in my life. That's, and I guess you are too. You get sort of really one-eyed about things. And I'm aware of when I'm going too far, or when you're thinking about something too much, or you're being too strict, or too sort of monomaniacal about stuff. This is fucking too much. Like, this is like, this is cult stuff. Like, this is the kind of, shocking change that a group like Landmark is trying to get you to do, or fucking Nixium. Do you know what I mean? Like, they want you to completely, break your brain.
Yeah.
But if you followed all of this to the T, like, would you think that it would necessarily, like, if you dipped in every now and then, you were like, oh yeah, like, I read one of those books, or I watched one of the movies just with my wife, and yeah, it got me thinking about a couple of things. But anyway, I moved on. But if you actually followed it all, and you were like, soaking yourself in this for 21 days and beyond, do you think it would genuinely have a positive effect?
Definitely not on your own life, and debatable whether it would do anything to quash racism.
Right. So you're saying we can't solve racism?
Well, I'm not saying you can't solve racism. I'm saying that this is not the way to do it.
Right. I just am so surprised that, like, this is just so fucking stupid and so obvious as well. Like, when you look at these books, like how dumb do they think you are? When you look at the list of books, and it's bell hooks, Ta-Nehisi Coates, Robert DiAngelo. Like, when you look, Michael Eric Doss, when you look at that list, and fucking, Nicole Hannah-Jones from the New York Times.
Kennedy.
Yeah, that's right. When you look at that list and you go, oh, okay. Like I'm not denigrating all of these authors, because, they've all done, very important works. And I'm sure actually there's probably some really good ideas in amongst all their stuff, but
it's all one-sided.
You can't tell me that list is not partisan.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, there are some people who don't agree with these people who aren't on this fucking list. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's not even a fucking... Do you know who's not on this list? Fucking Malcolm X. Do you know who's isn't on this list? Martin Luther King.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't even have to go to Thomas Sowell or Glenn Lowry or Shelby Steele, or like it's quite simple. They don't want you reading Martin Luther King or looking into him. They don't want you looking at Malcolm X or even Spike. How come there's no fucking Spike Lee?
Yeah,
there's no Spike Lee in this, because they don't want you engaging robustly with what it means to be, black in America. Like that's what Spike Lee is. Spike Lee's frustrated. He's angry at the white man, but he's also annoyed at the black man.
Yes, yeah.
As well. That is huge. That's a human story. They don't want you engaging with what it means to be human. Instead, this is the trendiest, most fashionable list of garbage.
What's fascinating to me also is that how much of an industry this is now, where you have these diversity companies that come in and do the trainings and make a lot of money too. You know, I mean, Robin DiAngelo, she does, I think her lectures start at like $20,000 a pop or something to have her come in for a couple of hours and tell all your employees that they're racists, you know. I just wonder if there's room in the market for a diversity or sort of a training company that does the opposite of this. And I don't mean like advocate for racism, but you know, advocating
the opposite of this.
You know, advocating for what this guy's saying in the email, like looking at different different books, different opinions, different, you know, and trying to simmer things down a little bit.
Well, that's what you know, that company organization FAIR is trying to do,
right?
And
is Megyn Kelly part of that? I think she is.
Yeah, she is. So, but the board of advice, it's got a board of advisors, and I think Megyn Kelly's on it. So, who have we got here? Peter Boghossian, Ayan Hirsi Ali, Melissa Chen, Niall Ferguson. Oh, there's like it already. This is good.
All
Glenn Lowry,
white supremacists.
John McWhorter, Douglas Murray, Stephen Pinker, Wilfred Riley.
All so good.
Eli
so
Still,
good.
Abigail Schreier, Barry Weiss. What fucking heroes. Andrew Sullivan. Do you know some of these people are my favorite people in the world? Coleman
Douglas
Hughes,
Murray.
Douglas Murray. Daryl Davis, he's that guy who converts KKK people. Befriends them and sort of gets them to give it up. And so yeah, what a glorious list of people. None of these people are on the list. So Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism. I encourage everyone to sign up to their newsletter because this is the problem is that we don't have yet a group. This part of you know, the corporate structure has been taken over by radicals and by these elites who like Robin DiAngelo and whatever, and these types of companies which are very one-sided, and they offer what, you know, I'd think to be a quite a racist viewpoint, you know, race essentialism and whatnot. And what FAIR does is they're trying to get into that space. They're trying to say, okay, like if you are a business, like, you know, and you're some clinic or whatever, and you need to provide training or whatever, we can provide you with human sort resources and really balanced stuff. And it's really good. The stuff like for school, medicine, work, all of that stuff. Another place is Counterweight, I think, run by Helen Pluckrose.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, there are some good places out there, which is nice to to think that there are, you know, alternatives starting to come to the fore. So it's not just, again, you know, and it was good to rag on AT&T, but, you know, there are really exciting new resources out there.
So in the future, we're going to see a bizarro New Flesh podcast railing about FAIR and their, you know, centrist indoctrination of some telecommunications company in a few years' time.
Will that be when, like, we've given over to the hard left or something?
I don't know. when we're finally cancelled.
Yeah, well, no, because that's the end of Big Brother, was when you say, I love Big Brother, you know. So when you start saying, I'm into all that, then you've got to, then we'll flip the script.
Well, that's a fascinating story. It's got me steamed, and I think I need something to simmer me down. Where is Sheila?
Yes. Sheila,
Sorry.
what's going on?
Sorry, one second. There we go. Can you hear me?
I've got you, Sheila. Now you're on location somewhere.
Yeah. I'm getting. It's been a long, how many months that we've been in lockdown. I haven't been able to get up to the city to get my Botox and fillers. So I'm waiting. I'm waiting out the front of my plastic surgeon's office.
Getting it done.
Yeah.
Has this turned into the Real Housewives of Melbourne here?
Is
that what the show is now?
Well, I drink enough piss and I get enough injectables, but I think I have to be a bit richer and dress better to get on the show.
That old chestnut.
All we need is some good news. So what hit us?
Well, that's a very good segue, because I've got great news for you and Ricky. and all men, activists hold small dong march to end the shaming of tiny penises. Activists have hit the street in force, carrying signs with some crude messages as they seek to put an end to the shaming of small penises.
Okay.
Yeah, that was in LA.
Just let it be known. I don't need to know where this march is. Okay, just
Yes.
letting you all know that. I don't know about you, Ricky, but secondly,
Whatever.
secondly, so it's in LA, is it?
Yeah, in
Now,
LA. And,
right.
you know, one of the quotes is, some people are embarrassed to show up. If you have a small dong, the truth will come out. So own that truth. The organisers pleaded while promoting the penis protest on Twitter.
All right, but I'm to understand that dong itch. See, this is why men are from Mars and women are from Venus, because obsessed with dongage is a man thing. Okay, we are way more obsessed with dong than women are. Now, I think there's a list of stuff they're judging you on, and I think dongs are a few down. I would say height would be way above that. So
That's true. That's true.
Wallets.
Well, no, but that's the thing. So it's like money and height. They would be the two main things. And when I say
height, I've never heard that combination before. Money and height. So
it's true though.
Sheila, would you date a man who is a foot shorter than you?
I have.
Did you respect him?
Well, I'm not engaged to him anymore.
And he's not your husband. So,
well, let me say.
Can I just say this, Ricky?
Yes.
My husband, when we were meeting on RSVP, I had said minimum height, I think 5'11".
Right.
And he responded, and then we met up, and I was like, hang on, this doesn't seem right. And then later on, he confessed that he is 5'10", but he says he's 5'10 and a half, which is practically 5'11".
Right. He knows. He gets it.
Listen, let me say, the problem isn't small penises; it's big vaginas. That's always been the problem.
Well, like putting a noodle into a windsock.
That's right.
What you're saying?
Yes.
Right. What a way to flip the script. Yeah. Okay.
So any woman that says he was too small has got a huge vagina. Huge.
No, that is bullshit, because I've been with 3 individuals with what I believe to be medical micropenis. And I tell you, the actual logistics of it is not good, because it falls out on the upswing, and there's nothing you can do with that, you know.
Okay. All right. I think I need to move on from this story, but I feel like we've covered a lot there.
Yeah. Well, anyway, there's
Moving
more
on.
penis stuff, so get with it.
Okay.
How golden penis syndrome is ruining dating for university women. Deficit of male students means men develop inflated egos and become Casanovas who cheat despite a lack of social and sexual skills.
It's like a Victorian novel. Like, that's got intrigue, naughty Casanovas. That's great. Very good. How's that any different from, just the homely chick on your training course, being the only hot one?
Oh, I don't know.
What a time to be alive. If you're a pussy hound and you want to go to college, like, you should do it, because the women far outweigh the men.
They do.
And you'll have your pick of the birds.
You will. But there's no mention of what you're going to have to do, though. Like, I mean, I know they're scrambling after these couple of guys, but do you have to put up with their intersectional nonsense? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, do you have to go on? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't know if I want to be a Casanova.
And all that paperwork too, all those consent forms.
Yeah, well, that should be weighed down by the paperwork. But I just feel like, do you really want to go on like 3 dates in a night, like in a sitcom, and then have endless discussions about privilege and, which march you're going to on the weekend and are we going to burn down this store or whatever, I don't know.
But if it results in some action at the end of the night, it was all worth it.
I believe it's called woke fishing.
Oh, so yes. I have heard this term, woke fishing.
Yeah, so woke fishing is when you go, ooh, yeah, you know what I really hate? I hate the patriarchy. And they go, oh, yes, very good. And then you get it done.
Yeah, and you say, by the way, did I mention I've got a huge dong?
I'm going to this march on the weekend.
Yeah, and then you get outed for working on this podcast.
Oh,
oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, we're married now. There's nothing you can do about it.
What? Gen Z workers are terrifying millennial bosses with woke demands. Junior at vibrator startup called boss on weekend to demand BLM support while others assign tasks to their bosses and demand PTO for anxiety.
See, you're doing it again. You've trolled me again. This is design. This is gaslighting. This is gaslighting. This is the sort of story that really
grinds your gears.
It grinds my gears, because it's got everything. All right, it's got entitled,
rats,
workers at places. But what I like about this story, it's interesting. So you said it's a vibrator business.
Yes.
Okay, and this is perfect. We've covered this a bit today. Well, in the past as well. This idea, this woke capitalism thing of I love businesses that get in, these juniors who are at the businesses, sort of forcing this just business that's selling vibrators to get involved in stuff that's outside their portfolio, like BLM.
Yes.
Mm.
What the fuck has BLM got to do with vibrators?
Mm.
Nothing is the answer.
No, not a lot. I don't think.
But also, and I love the thing that really got my goat was giving their bosses tasks to do or something. So he said,
good. Yeah.
This is crazy.
They've really flipped things, haven't they? They come in as the junior employee, and then just give it a couple of weeks, and they've flipped it, and they're ordering the bosses around.
What happened to getting fired?
I know.
Honestly, what happened to getting fired?
Look, seriously, I'm Gen X, and I can't tell you the amount of times I've been fired. I got fired once for not wearing skimpy enough shorts at a job, at a promotional job. Obviously not in the condition I'm in now. This was many, many, many moons ago. But, people used to fire you left, right and centre. So, yeah, I don't know. We need sort of hashtag shut up, you little dickheads, I think.
Well, look, and I don't think we should engage too much in this generational stuff. That is a total foil. I think there's dickheads and non-dickheads, and it doesn't matter. There's no such thing as, these generations really. It's just, because there's great Zoomers, there's great boomers, and there's a lot of rotten boomers as well,
Okay, here we go. Instagram model 21 helps her mother, 38, escape prison in Colombia by distracting.
Hang on. 21, 38.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do the maths.
Okay, I'll do the maths.
I can't do the maths.
She was not quite of age.
Yeah. Okay, by distracting a security guard as she climbed out of a window using a rope. So I think this
sexy
is just,
escape.
Yeah, sexy escape.
Sexcapades.
I think, they're telling you that it's a sexy 21-year-old, it's a sexy mom, and it's Colombia, so they're just hot, women.
Latinxes.
Just hot women, and they're giving you the sort of mental imagery of just a saucy biatch dropping out of a window by a rope.
Like you're picturing Zoe Saldana or something.
Yeah,
I get it. I'm picturing it.
And even Mendez, and
yes,
just
take your pick.
So basically, it's Sin City,
it's just Salma Hayek, and
so
getting it done.
Just hotness. So
great, love it.
Hot escape.
But again, the Daily Mail giving us the ages as well. That's always the red
I was
flag, isn't
just
it?
about to say that. Yeah.
It's those ages that gives the story away.
Clickbait.
Because part of you goes, oh, what's this? What's this? Zoomer, Daily Mail worker intern thinking when they write the headline, and when they put the ages in, you go, oh, okay, I know what they're thinking. I know what they want me to think, and I'm thinking it.
All right, so I think you guys will like this. I'm not entirely sure who this gentleman is. Maybe you know him. I don't know. Senator Josh Hawley says Liberals' attacks on manhood are driving men to porn and video games, and the left wants to give us a world beyond men.
True. I agree.
Yes. I know who Josh Hawley is. He's a Republican politician, sort of, very visible, and as you can see, very socially conservative. So he's I don't know what to say about that. The left does have a strange, because all three of us are socially liberal or socially open-minded, at least as far as I know. And
I'm not. I'm very, very conservative.
No, but we've got those. Whereas, I don't know. He's just pushing that. With the left is, where is the line for people on the left? Do you know what I mean? Where is the line? Is it because do you have to come in and to your workplace and say, I'm sex positive, and to talk about sex endlessly and what you're doing with your genitals and whatever? Is there any line? You know what I mean? And do we have to encourage everyone to get into sex work it's it's good career advice?
I think in the future it's going to come out that this senator is, he's got an OnlyFans account, he's bisexual, he's doing all sorts of debauchery.
Seems like a really straight-laced dude. He's got that Ben Shapiro sort of straightness about him.
Well, there you go. Here's my last one for you. All right. Snorting drugs off bottoms. Sex.
Come on.
No, let me finish. Sex on footy ovals, swimming naked in fountains, and smoking their pubic hair inside the outrageous muck-up day scavenger hunt by Year 12 students that horrified school bosses.
Muck-up day, again.
Muck-up day. And can I just say, this is from Western Australia, and it is from 2 Bunbury High Schools.
Of course, it had to be Bunbury.
So for anyone who's listening from overseas, Bunbury is so Perth is on the west side of Australia, the most isolated city in the world, and Bunbury is even further away from that little township.
But Bunbury's a pretty fun place. I've had great times in Bunbury, and
it's loose.
It's loose, and this is just Bunbury chicks and dudes just keeping it real.
Well, they just gave you a montage though. Those little vignettes they gave you, part of you just goes, to be young.
It sounds like the end times, doesn't it? It's like the asteroid is bearing down on Earth, and it's like everything's on.
Depending on your view, it's either a nice ode to youth, or it is Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. Here's the checklist, guys. Sorry, I didn't realize. Okay, so 10 points. Hook up with someone you fucked, and that's what they've written. Hook up with someone from a different team. 20 points. Skinny dip at the beach. Piss off Bunbury Tower. 40 points. Steal someone's drive-through order as it's getting passed to them. Drink bong water after doing a bong. 60 point. Slash someone's tire. 85 points. Give or receive oral sex on a footy oval. Snort a line off someone's ass. Here we go. Another 10 points. Eat a live bug or worm. Have a cone at school. 50 points. Get a stranger to sign your boobs or ass. Play porn on public transport super loud. Smoke pubes in a bong. 100 points. Whole group shaves pubes and glues and glues to someone else's face as a beard, show up to someone's house naked and ask for clothes, 200 points, steal a mailbox, 300 points, snort a line with a sex worker. Oh, but hey, Bunbury kids, keep yourselves real. This is wonderful stuff. I am in full support of their outrageous behaviour.
It's a criminal enterprise. Is what it is.
I want to meet the winner of this challenge.
What do they do when they win?
I don't know. They
They
win
just
at
win.
life.
They just win life. Yeah.
They win at life. They go, "Here, you won," and you say, "Yeah, but you had to do all these horrible things to win."
And I've got a glued on pube beard.
Right.
Anyway, that's where I'm leaving it, fellas. I got to go in and get my face fixed.
All right. Thanks for finishing strong.
Thank you. All right. See you.
Well, a lot of penis updates there.
There were a lot of penis updates there. It's like it's what we like on the New Flesh. It wouldn't be the New Flesh without some sort of penis talk.
Penis-related news.
Yeah.
Staff at the Old Vic Theatre in London have had their say and decided they don't much like the views of the director of a musical, Terry Gilliam, no less, he of Monty Python fame. His thought crimes, to the minds of some staff at the venue, included enjoying the work of the comedian Dave Chappelle and wondering aloud if some innocent people had been caught up in allegations made by the Me Too movement.
Who's cancelled? Tell me.
Okay, Terry Gilliam has been cancelled.
And who's Terry Gilliam?
Terry Gilliam.
I know, but
I know
some people
you know.
might not know.
Terry Gilliam is a former Monty Python member. He's a director, Golden Globe winner, BAFTA Award winner, Academy Award nominee. He was hired to direct Stephen Sondheim's musical Into the Woods for the Old Vic, which is a 200-year-old theatre in London, very famous and venerable institution. The show's been cancelled due to staff unrest, allegedly over comments he's made about some hot-button issues. So I think you can imagine what they'd be. He's called the Me Too movement a witch hunt, which many people agree with. He liked Dave Chappelle's comedy show, as do many people. He made an irreverent comment lampooning the excesses of the trans movement. To a journalist, he said, when I announce that I'm a black lesbian in transition, people take offense at that. Why? So, anyway.
He calls himself a BLT.
Yeah.
Black lesbian in transition.
That's great.
But it wasn't that in response to someone saying that that Monty Python was too white or something, or that the new Monty Python would have to be more diverse?
Oh, probably. Yeah, I didn't go down the rabbit hole there.
Yeah, I think that's how that I mean, he didn't just come out and say that. Like that was in an interview where he was saying I think not too long before that he did critique, sort of this anti-white this hatred that's going on. Sure, yeah, but it was it was a comedic reaction to a silly question about why Monty Python is not more diverse.
But I don't have to explain. Like once you have to explain, sort of that dry sense of humor, like the person you're talking to doesn't get it. Like yeah. I read that quote even out of context, and I was like, I could picture him saying that.
Yes, yeah,
to someone, and exactly, I knew the intonation, I knew what he was trying to go for. It's ironic because what he's saying is clearly verboten.
Mm.
That's why it's funny. He's saying verboten stuff and saying, "Oh, people get really angry when I say that. Why? I don't get it." Like it's
yeah,
it's great. So there were people obviously that were very pleased about this. So this woman Nassie Conan online said this should have been scrapped over a year ago. It's taken them this long to do something right for once. She screams. Penny Babakani also tweeted, "Good. It should have been cancelled over a year ago." And the leadership at the Old Vic, who owe many of us an apology for the awful way this was handled.
Whoa, what an over the top response,
It's big. So
Jesus.
But really, so what are we saying? We're saying that this show was pulled or cancelled over, a range of remarks that he's made. Staff unrest is what it's being put down to. So what are we saying? This is Spotify, this is Penguin Publishing, this is Netflix, whoever. This is the the middle to lower tier staffers
The other thing here is it's not his show. It's Sondheim.
Yes.
You know, it's not as though he's written a show that's all about how much he loves Dave Chappelle. You know, it's kind of a standard musical that's been around for a long time. He's just directing the fucking thing, you know.
But that's what's so interesting is that, you know, you try and work through why he's been cancelled, and because if you had to come up with what the rules are, it seems to be very confusing. You know what I mean? Like, I think the show's gotten killed because of a few cherry-picked comments, very recent ones, from a guy who's been a member of the most offensive comedy troupe of the last 50 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Why aren't they railing about some of the stuff that they say in The Life of Brian or something?
Why? Because, you know, we all know that since his Python days, there's been an institutional capture by the left. So now his irreverency is beyond the pale. When it was aimed at the Tories or the church, it was great. It was fine. It was awesome. It was wonderful. Now that it's aimed at you know, the new tyrannies, that's terrible. That's the real. Now he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's get real. You know, let's get real for a second. Terry Gilliam is a brilliant director. He is a national treasure. And he should be getting a fucking knighthood. You know what I mean? Like, I'm serious. He's 80 years old.
Can Americans get knighthoods?
Well, I think he's British, isn't he?
No, he's the only American in the Monty Python cast.
Well, either way, he's sort of honorary. I think I do know he's got American roots, but he's spent so long in the UK. I feel like he kind of is British now. He's visionary, passionate, ambitious, inspiring. Time Bandits, Brazil, Fisher King, 12 Monkeys, Fear and Loathing, Tideland, Monty Python and the Holy Grail, co-director. I mean, he's a Python, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
You know, his animation work on the series is legendary.
Yes, yeah.
It's legendary. He's a generational talent. He's got more genius and daring in his pinky than any Marvel film director working today.
Yeah.
And anyone working at Disney for that matter. This guy is a real deal. We'll be talking about this guy long after everyone at Disney is just dust in a can. And this is just so frustrating. You know, a few darlings got hurt, and now the people of London don't get to see a new work by Terry Gilliam. You know, probably, you know, a guy with not too many years left. I think it's dreadful, and I think these people are loathsome. And I just don't know what needs to happen for this to stop, because the precedent's been set. You know, anything you say or have said will be used against you, and there's no pathway to redemption, no nuance, no jokes, no irony. You know, I
honestly think the only solution is to wait for the next generation to come along and hope that they're not as fragile as these millennials, you know. So, I mean, my take on it is that these millennials that are getting things cancelled, like these adult children, which is what they are, like they've been taught from birth that they're special. They've been trained to always see identity from the outset of meeting someone, and constantly aware of the terror of sinning against it. And I think they've also been protected by helicopter parenting, and, you know, given technology that enables them to never encounter a person with a differing point of view. And I don't think they have any machinery to deal with grey areas or difficult discussions. So, I mean, you see it on college campuses when you know, the students, they just cannot stand what someone is saying, or they ask a question and they can't, you know, and
they're literally shaking. And whoever's up, you know, whoever's speaking, some academic, you know, might ask a question back at them and say something like, well, what do you mean by systemic, or, you know, what do you mean by oppression? And, you know, they just, even that triggers them. They can't look anyone in the face. Like, I mean, this is a really big problem. And I know we interviewed a guy a few months ago, Aidan Brennan, who's a high school student who sort of railed against some of this stuff. And he gave us a lot of hope to think that this Zoomer generation is going to rebel against some of this woke bullshit, and that hopefully things will even out a little bit, because there's no reckoning with people like that. There's no
You can't have a discussion on an equal plane, and you can't have a good faith discussion or debate, or it's just they just won't listen to you.
And in the meantime, we just don't get to see Terry Gilliam do anything. Do you know what I mean?
That's
In
right.
the last years of his career.
Yeah.
I just think it's dreadful and a terrible mistake. But honestly, how come no one has asked what the rules are? Because what are the rules?
Yeah.
Because the rules here are, he's made irreverent jokes, which he's always done. Sorry, did you check his CV? Do you know what I mean? I don't understand. How is anything he said now more offensive than anything he said against the church? Is it the topic? Did you warn him when you hired him? Oh, look, just so you know, never say anything. Or if he's got the wrong opinions, tell him what the right ones are.
Yeah.
They haven't offered what the right opinions are. So if don't joke about trans stuff. It's just
But it seems to be creeping further away from perceived jokes about trans people, or because this is a pretty light joke as well. I think about the whole situation. I think it's getting deeper into just attacking people because of their political point of view.
And I just wouldn't have thought that Terry Gilliam. I've never thought of him as being particularly political. That's the thing. He is a true artist, and like any great true artist, he is sort of apolitical.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Anything, he's full of contradictions, and all the best artists are. They're not really. You can't pin them down. They for instance, and this is not political, but you'd think that someone who directed Fear and Loathing Las Vegas would be, into drugs. He's never had drugs in his life. That's perfect. That's him to a T. Is that Terry Gilliam's never had drugs and has made the most famous drug movie. Do you know what I mean? He is just an extraordinary talent and a type of bold and ambitious big character that we need more of, and that for some reason, I just don't understand, because he's part of that generation that I've talked about before, which I want to see standing up, and I want to see why isn't Martin Scorsese? Why aren't they getting up and Tarantino and everyone saying what needs to be said? Why aren't they shutting this shit down? Why aren't they saying, well, I'm sorry, they knew who I was when they hired me, and I haven't said anything that lots of people don't agree with, and I think maybe that you should just put the show on, and what's the difference?
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
he's only going to be there on opening night, and then he won't be there anymore.
Yeah, that's right. And you as a viewer don't have to have anything to do with him. Go and see some Sondheim. Go and see some people sing.
It's particularly bad in the theater.
Yeah, we know this for sure.
This is an absolute cancer on the creative community. All of this stuff, and it's really awful. You know what I mean? These people who think like this, they're losers.
Yeah, sure.
And they need to be called out. And someone needs to bring back the eye roll. You know what I mean? Can't we roll our eyes at some people? When some people come in and go, "Oh my God, Terry Gilliam," and you go, "Oh my God, what did he do? Did he touch you up?" Like Kevin Spacey? No, he didn't touch me up.
He said he liked the Chappelle special.
And then you go, "Oh, you sure he didn't try and touch your dick once?" No, I didn't try and touch my dick. And then you go, "Okay, I'm just confused. It's just when did he punch you?" He didn't punch me. He didn't punch me. He said naughty things. And you go, well, in the words of Monty Python, like Romans say, he's not the Messiah. He's just a very naughty boy.
I'm sure Terry will get a gig somewhere else.
He will.
I hope so.
So do I.
Moving on to another topic here. I've got a Loudoun County update for you guys. Many episodes ago, we brought you a story about Loudoun County's public school board in the US, and this board was implementing a quite radical leftist ideology in their schools. And what made news headlines in this case was that parents were attending school board meetings and quoting passages from controversial literature on the school's reading lists. Well, no, it was mostly the books that parents objected to contained graphic depictions of sex involving gay, bisexual, and trans characters, and characters questioning their gender and sexuality, and you know, at wildly inappropriate ages as well. And the footage of the parents reciting from these books is both alarming and extremely hilarious as well. This update involves a guy called Scott Smith, who was a father of a 15-year-old girl who was sexually assaulted in a school bathroom by a boy who was allegedly wearing a skirt. Back in June, Smith, who's a plumber, attended a school board meeting in Loudoun County. On the agenda was the board's proposal to allow students to use the bathroom of either sex according to their self-declared gender identity. In response to objections raised by parents, the school district superintendent, Scott Ziegler, claimed that we don't have any record of assaults occurring in our bathrooms, he said. He said that the predator, transgender student or person simply does not exist. So Smith went to this meeting to express his anger about the assault of his daughter and to protest the policy. He was taunted by activists. He got into a shouting match with a woman who said she didn't believe the rape had happened. Police intervened and arrested this guy. He was then charged with 2 misdemeanors. And 3 months later, in September, the National School Boards Association, they worked with some White House officials to craft a letter to President Biden. This is where things get a bit sinister here. The letter urged the president and federal law enforcement to crack down on threats of violence against school board members. It likened protesting parents to domestic terrorists and suggested that counter-terror measures in the Patriot Act should be deployed against them. Which is fucking nuts.
That's what it was there for, right? That's what it's there to protect us from those parents, right?
It's not just 9/11, it's trans now, you know. So this father, whose daughter was a victim of rape, he was shown zero sympathy. He was not believed by the school board, and he was ridiculed by trans activists. And now what's subsequently come out is that law enforcement has confirmed that a male student committed the assault. And in addition to this, we found out that the Loudoun school superintendent had lied when he told parents that no sexual assaults had occurred in school bathrooms across the country. So, this school board is in some deep shit now because they've been shown up to have known about this assault and had sort of swept it under the carpet, even to go so far as to find a different school for this particular male student.
Yes. The sideways promotion.
That's right. This what happens a lot to Catholic priests.
That's
I think.
Church. Yeah, that was the old move of the church.
Yeah,
you know, to shift them sideways. Well, that letter that was written as well has been retracted.
But no apology has yet been given to this Scott Smith guy, which is unfortunate. But you know, I hope that they get the justice that they deserve. You know, I think they deserve an apology, and shit in Loudoun County is fucking nuts. You know, I mean, we talked about it in the other podcast.
This comes up a lot, this little town.
It's bizarre, isn't it? It's somewhere near Washington, D.C., so it's a pretty liberal place, but none of the parents are on board with any of this shit, you know. And I think it just shows that you can't push them out of having any say in their kids' education, you know. And I think one thing the COVID pandemic has done, like particularly in Australia, like having to homeschool kids now, is a lot of parents have actually started to see the kind of stuff that
the crap
is being taught to them. You know, there's a big curriculum overhaul that's happening in Australia now, and a lot of this woke stuff is being injected in there, and that, you know, there's sort of opposing political voices that are trying to even things out a little bit, and we'll have to see how that plays out. But I think the homeschooling has sort of helped to shed light on what kids are actually learning. But yeah, I mean, you can go on YouTube and you just type in Loudoun County and you can see all sorts of mad stuff that's happening at board meetings. And I think that entire board needs to be fired for this thing alone, you know, like sweeping this sexual assault under the carpet just to sort of protect this trans ideology and, you know, just this obsession with bathrooms, you know.
Well, they're not playing it straight. All we want in a lot of these discussions is for people to play it straight. And what I mean is to be that voice of reason, to be rational, to seek the truth without fear or favor. That means if someone who is in your tribe has committed a crime or done the wrong thing, you need to pursue that, regardless of the optics, regardless of the narrative, regardless of what the in-group is going to think of you. Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of this woke stuff is now attached to a status. So if you hold certain points of view, then you have an elite status. You know what I mean? So people protect that. But that is, you've got to be able to say, you know what, we looked into it, and there's been an assault, and it just so happens that the kid is, non-binary, trans, whatever. We don't care about that. What we care about
safety, isn't it?
What we care about is the crime that occurred.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I think it's also come out that this particular boy went on to sexually assault another girl in another school. So he's obviously a serial sort of sex pest here, and
rapist.
Definitely, yeah. And this case,
when you said sex pest, I pictured Fanny Hill.
Yeah, that's right.
And I was like, wait,
yeah.
This kid's
just pinching bottoms.
I was like, this kid's nothing like my beloved Benny Hill.
I know. Well, this case has become a flashpoint in the culture war over schools in the US, and major media have largely ignored the story, unfortunately, because it does raise serious questions about the trans ideology that's being forced on kids through their schools, and unless you've once been a 15-year-old boy, you can't fathom just how unbelievably horny a teenage boy can be. And mix that horniness with someone who seems to be a fucking psychopath, and you get incidents like this. I think segregation of bathrooms and toilets is 100% what needs to happen in schools. And these school board members are on another fucking planet,
Yeah. Well,
was that a good news topic or a bad news topic? I don't know, but
as in, how do I feel about it?
Yeah.
Well, it's it's part of our ongoing because the thing is, all of these issues are in process. So we actually don't know what the rules are now. We don't know what the future holds and where it's going to come down. Because if it was easy. If it was as easy as, just have a third bathroom, or, we've decided we're going to use these words, and if you use these words, it's all good. If it was easy, we already would have done it. It's not easy. There are competing rights going on here, and it's like the Stonewall thing, like the reason the LGB Alliance, the only reason that they have been created is because of the new sort of attempted erasure of lesbians and and women and their rights and stuff. So we've got to sort all this stuff out, and this is what it means to live in interesting times.
Yeah. Well, I've got a solution. Everyone should walk around with catheters.
Great.
Just carry your shit and your piss with you during the day.
Okay.
Dispose of it when you get home.
Yep.
Everyone's safe.
Yeah, I'm down with that. Yeah. I just feel like putting a catheter in my pee hole.
I know.
Might be a little bit full on.
Yes.
Well, anyway, good topic. Great show. Bumper show today, hey?
Yeah. Well, it's our 50th birthday celebration.
It is the 50th birthday?
50th episode celebration.
We should have talked that through. Anyway, next week we have Sliver. We're back to Joe Esterhaus, for a few weeks.
Yep.
On Sideboob Cinema.
And I think on our Friday show, I don't know if it's too premature to release this, but we might be talking about the Squid Game.
Yes, I want to talk about Squid Game desperately. So, I'm trying to get Katie involved, but she's a big shot. Hey?
I know.
Big shot, hard to nail down, but we'll see if we can get her.
Got to get her out of that corporate boardroom.
I know. So look, anyway, we'll talk about Squid Game next week. All right. Well, we said what we said.
Long live the new flesh.
Long live the new flesh.
A huge vagina. By the way, did I mention I've got a huge dong? 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 Did I mention